December 5th, 1945, 5 U.S. Navy bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale on a training exercise over the Atlantic and were never seen again. Their experienced flight leader reported that his compasses were malfunctioning. He could not determine direction. The squadron flew the wrong way, ran out of fuel somewhere over the open ocean, and ditched somewhere. The rescue aircraft sent to find them also disappeared, though that disappearance had a separately documented explanation. As we will see, the loss of Flight 19 is the single case most responsible for the legend of the Bermuda Triangle. And it is a genuinely strange and sad story. But it is the beginning of our investigation, not the end. The cases that form the Bermuda Triangle legend are real events. Ships and planes genuinely disappeared in this area of the Atlantic. The USS Cyclops, a vessel 542 feet long, carrying over 300 men, vanished in March 1918 without a trace. To this day, the largest loss of life in U.S. Navy history outside of combat. The Star Tiger disappeared in January 1948 with 25 people aboard, in conditions the pilot described as good visibility. These are not invented stories. People died. The question is not whether the disappearances happened, it is whether they happened because of something unusual about this particular stretch of ocean, or whether they happened for reasons that are tragic, mundane, and fully explicable. The Bermuda Triangle as a named supernatural phenomenon was largely invented by the publishing industry. The term was coined in the early 1950s, popularized in the 1960s, and turned into a global legend by Charles Berlitz's 1974 book, which sold 20 million copies in 30 languages and introduced aliens, time warps, and the lost city of Atlantis as explanations. What Berlitz and his predecessors did not do was check the sources. In 1975, a librarian and researcher named Lawrence David Kusha published The Bermuda Triangle Mystery, Solved, in which he methodically cross-referenced every case against the original records. What he found was not a mystery. It was a catalog of errors, exaggerations, and outright fabrications. Kusha's research was devastating for the legend. He found that Berlitz and other triangle authors had systematically misrepresented the cases. Storms were omitted from descriptions. Ships that sank elsewhere were relocated to the triangle. Cases were included that had no geographical connection to the area at all. One mysterious disappearance turned out to be a ship lost in the Pacific Ocean on the opposite side of the planet. Another, vanished without a trace vessel, had its wreckage found and documented in official reports that the Triangle authors either did not read or chose not to mention. When Kush examined the genuinely documented disappearances in the Triangle area, he found the rate of unexplained losses was no higher than in any other heavily trafficked stretch of ocean in the world. The most powerful debunking of the Bermuda Triangle is statistical. The area is one of the most heavily trafficked stretches of ocean in the world. Thousands of ships and aircraft cross it every year. Lloyd's of London, whose business depends on accurate risk assessment, does not charge higher premiums for Bermuda Triangle transits. The U.S. Coast Guard has explicitly stated that there is no evidence of any unusual concentration of unexplained losses in the area compared to other ocean regions. When you control for traffic density, how many ships and planes actually pass through the disappearance rate in the Bermuda Triangle is not statistically unusual. The mystery, to a significant extent, is a product of selective reporting. The disappearances were counted, the safe crossings were not. The Bermuda Triangle sits at the intersection of several genuine natural hazards. The Gulf Stream, the powerful ocean current flowing northward through the area, can scatter wreckage hundreds of miles from a sinking site within days, making recovery nearly impossible. The region has unusually high hurricane activity. The seafloor contains methane hydrate deposits, whose eruption, though rare, can theoretically reduce water density enough to sink a ship without warning. And the area has a specific magnetic declination, the difference between true north and magnetic north, that has historically caused navigational confusion. None of these require supernatural explanation. All of them are sufficient to explain the losses that occurred. The truth about Flight 19 is not supernatural, but it is genuinely tragic. Lieutenant Taylor, under pressure and disoriented, made a series of navigational decisions based on a false premise about his position. His men followed his lead, as they were required to. They ran out of fuel after dark in rough seas and ditched somewhere northeast of the Bahamas. The Gulf Stream, flowing at 5 knots northward through the area, would have dispersed any surface debris within days, carrying it far from the search areas. Some wreckage from TBM Avengers has been found on the seafloor in the area over the years, but positive identification remains elusive. The 14 men of Flight 19 were not taken by a supernatural force. They were killed by disorientation, darkness, and the indifferent power of the Atlantic Ocean. That is sad enough. The USS Cyclops remains the most genuinely mysterious of all the Triangle cases, and also the most likely to have a mundane explanation that simply cannot be proven. A heavily overloaded ship, a potentially unstable captain, a known engine problem, the North Atlantic in early March. The most probable scenario is a catastrophic structural failure or capsizing, so rapid that no distress signal was sent, with the dense manganese ore cargo dragging the entire vessel to the seafloor in minutes. But we cannot prove this. The ship has never been found. In over 100 years, not one piece of identifiable wreckage has surfaced. The ocean, in this case, kept every secret. That is genuinely haunting, and it does not require Atlantis or time portals to remain so. The real mystery of the Bermuda Triangle is not what makes it uniquely dangerous. It isn't, particularly. The real mystery is what the ocean is. 106 million square kilometers of water, most of it deeper than any light reaches, covering a seafloor mapped in less detail than the surface of Mars. Ships and planes that sink in the open ocean simply disappear, swallowed by a body of water so vast that the absence of wreckage proves nothing except the ocean's indifference to our desire for closure. The Bermuda Triangle captured the human imagination not because something supernatural lives there, but because it gave a name and a boundary to one of our oldest fears, that the sea can take everything.